Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It's spring and time to plant the annual color. Today we are planting ageratum, sweet potato vine, and impatiens. Also, there are many plant societies, but are they right for you? That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Joellen Diamond. Joellen is the Director of Landscape at the University of Memphis. And Susie Askew will be joining me later. All right, Joellen.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Doing fine. How about you?
I am doing good. I can't wait to see what we're going to put in the bed today,
You know,
right?
look, we did Dusty Miller and violas this year.
So what do you think?
I say
Did they do okay?
Dusty Miller did good. I think the
think so.
violas, not so good.
Not so good.
So, but you know, we have done a segment where we've kept the Dusty Miller for several
Yes, we have.
seasons, and we're not doing that this time. So we need to dig it up, and it's so nice that we're just going to put it in some different place.
Okay. So we're going to transplant
We're
it
going to
somewhere
transplant
else, huh?
it, but you know something? Dusty Miller are biannuals, and as you can see, they're starting to bloom this year. When you plant something in the fall, it thinks it's the first year, and when it goes through the cold of winter and spring comes again, it thinks it's the second year and it starts blooming. So that's
okay.
why 4 of the 5 of these are starting to bloom. Now, we want to transplant these, but we need to get rid of the blooms so it will stop putting energy into blooms
Got
and
it.
put it into our transplanting of the roots.
Okay.
So we'll just cut off all of the blooms.
And that's not going to hurt the plant,
Not
right?
going to hurt the
Okay.
plant a bit.
And I like the blooms. They're beautiful yellow
They're
blooms.
Beautiful
Yeah.
yellow blooms. So if we want to let them bloom later, we can. And of course, we will dig them up so we have some root system with them for transplanting.
All right.
There you go.
All right. How about that? Looks nice, huh?
Look,
What's
look
this?
at some good root system. And we're gonna leave our bulbs to die down naturally. Now we got to get rid of what's left in the
Well,
bed.
you know this is always the hard part for me, right?
Well, but they're
pulling up the
almost dead.
plants. I know.
They don't look that great this year.
No, they don't.
It's gotten warm, so they really are not going to do any better than this. Got a few more. I seem to have a lot of leaves in the
Yeah, we
bed.
do.
So, and we got to do something with these daffodils. So let's rake the leaves and the
Okay.
debris up a little bit. Those Dusty Miller just gathered them up.
All right.
Got a few of these daffodils to tie up. You just want to leave them, but sometimes they get in the way, and so I usually just divide them up and give them a little knot to stay near the ground so they don't look so bothersome until they finish getting the nutrients down to their roots.
So it doesn't hurt to tie them up, huh?
No. The sun can get, and they can make chlorophyll whether they're straight or they're tied. Well, we're gonna put a little fertilizer down.
Okay.
And because it's so dry, I hate putting new plants in dry soil, so we'll sprinkle a little bit of our slow release fertilizer down.
Hey, just a little bit. What did your mom say about the fertilizer?
Yeah, she said feed the chickens.
Feed the chickens. You feed the chickens.
So we're just a little bit to get them started. If you put wet roots into a dry soil, it will suck the moisture out of the root system. And then your plant will wilt before it's even established.
Ah.
So it's just better to have the soil close to the moisture level that you're planting from in their containers. And we're not trying to soak this. We're just trying to add a little bit of moisture to this dry soil. We've done what is very pleasing to a lot of people. We've used the 3 primary colors again this year.
I like that.
We've got red impatiens, sun patiens. We've got yellow sweet potato vine,
Nice.
and we got blue ageratum.
All right.
So we'll set these out first. We've got 5 of them. We can plant across
Okay.
the top of the bed.
So is there a particular pattern that you like with 5?
Well, I like odd numbers.
I know you do.
And so I usually space them out according to their odd number, and I like to put the sweet potatoes in between them to fill in. And so we have 5 of those, and we have 6 of these.
So the sweet potato vines are going to spread pretty good for us?
Oh, they'll spread, yes. And we'll see how much they spread. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll determine. We've never planted these in here before, so we will see which of these likes this area better.
Sounds like a true trial garden, right?
Yes. And there we go. Now we'll plant these and we'll fill in with the ageratum.
Okay.
You gotta take the plant and squish the bottom of it and let the plant fall out in your hand. And you look and you see this is nicely rooted. It's not too root bound or anything. It's a little bit of spreading out of those roots, and it's
Yeah.
ready to plant. And we don't bury them in the ground either. I like to put the soil surface of the plant just ever so slightly higher than the existing soil.
So Joellen, looking at the sun patience, so is there anything we need to know about that? Is that a
Oh,
concern?
that's definitely root bound.
Okay.
And I'm sure when you take this off, part of that will rip off.
All right. That's okay, right?
Yeah, that's okay. But yeah, this is, if we had something, we need to stop this circling. So you just pinch off the roots and it stops that circling, and it will stop circling now and want to go away from the plants. All root systems like to root away from a plant to anchor it.
They do.
And by taking that circling off, we will cause them to go out away from the plant.
Is there a reason why you chose the sun patience?
Yes, because we've got a lot of southern sun here, and I wanted to make sure that they would live in the sun that's going to be here on them. It's going to be a hot sun in the summertime, so, and sun patients do well in the sun.
I think we got it. Take that out.
Now that we've got this row of plants in, we're going to fill in with the other. We took away a lot of the mulch, so I would like to put a little bit of mulch on each side of this row, and we'll just spread it around a little bit.
Oh, look at that.
And we don't need much. We're just kind of dressing up.
All right.
Ageratum are
Wow.
well rooted,
Yeah, very well.
but ageratum is a well rooted annual. And
Okay.
it does this a lot, but you know, we'll help it, of course, when we plant each one by stop that circling and squareness, and we'll plant them.
All right.
Each one of these will get to be about 12 inches round. So we don't have a large space, mostly like you would find in front of your home. You just find a small little bed to look nice during the summer. The ageratum can take sun and a partly shady area, which is what we have here. So it should do fairly well.
Okay.
And they will get to be 12 inches round. So,
Wow.
and
Pretty
so
good
will
size.
the New Guinea impatiens. So I mean, we don't need a whole lot of plants to
Right.
fill in this area. I always lay things out before we plant, because it's just easier to move them instead of planting
yes.
them first and then trying to move them. We've got 3 rows now, blue on each side of the
Ooh.
yellow and red, and I think we're ready to plant.
Think we're ready?
Now, since we have mulched, make sure you spread the mulch out of the way for when you dig your hole for your plant, so that you can put the mulch back over the top and it will look like you were never there.
Uh-huh. And somebody's probably wondering, but you're tearing up the roots. Well,
They've got plenty.
yeah, plenty. It actually initiates more roots when you
It-
cut roots.
It does.
When you
We're
tear
doing them a
apart.
favor. There we go.
We got them in.
That will be pretty.
That's going to be nice. Grow, little ones, grow. Gonna
And
be
now
nice.
we'll water them in.
We'll water them in.
Notice I have a nice water breaker on the end of this hose. This is the kind of water breaker that you use when you have flowers like this. That way you're not digging holes into the plants and around the plants. You're gently putting water on as Mother Nature would with rain. And you want to make sure you soak it deeply. Once you go over it, you go back over it again. And sometimes for a new planting, I'll go over it a 3rd time. So the water seeps down into the ground, making the area wet for all of them, and it takes all the air pockets out of the soil and puts the soil up against each of the roots. And then they'll be off to a good start.
All right, Joellen. I can't wait to see what this is going to look like later in the season, right?
It's going to be really pretty, I think.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff. Thank you much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
This is a great example of boating. That's what we call it. It basically is getting ready to put on seed. It's done all that it's supposed to do. It has supplied us with a lot of delicious kale to eat over the winter months. And so it's just ready to go to seed. Can you still eat these leaves? Yes, you can still eat them, but some people think they're a little tough. Some people, think they're a little bitter at this point, but you can still eat it. And of course, kale is not the only plant that will bolt. Most of your brassica plants in that group, they will bolt, such as your broccoli, your turnip greens, your collards. All of those type of plants will bolt. Even lettuce will bolt. And of course, once a plant starts to bolt, you really can't stop it. There's not any kind of chemical you can put out there to make it stop bolting or whatever. Once this process starts, it's going to complete. So at that point, that's when I pull them up in my garden and send them over to the compost pile.
All right, Miss Susie, let's talk about the benefits of plant societies.
There's an umbrella organization called the Memphis Horticultural Society that's been around since about 1980. And that group sort of covers everything. Their mission is to bring programming to the Mid-South area on gardening. Lecture series is what it amounts to, and there's no obligation other than paying your dues or paying each time you attend a lecture. It's the first Tuesday of every month, and each month the lecture changes. But below that are all the different plant societies where you concentrate on one type plant, and they go from hydrangea to hosta, African violet, orchid. You can almost name a plant group, and there's a group of people that get together and study just that one plant. Ferns, for
which
instance.
is pretty impressive when you think about that.
So they meet every month or every few months also on a regular basis.
Okay.
And then you have garden clubs, and garden clubs are probably the most misunderstood of the group. I've been in the garden club as long as I've been in the Hort Society.
Okay.
They're two affiliations. One is National Garden Clubs, which is the biggest gardening organization in the world.
Wow.
They actually have international affiliates.
Okay.
And in that National Garden Clubs, there are programming such as flower arranging, gardening, environmental and conservation groups, and also landscape design critics. So they have program schools that they offer in their membership.
Okay.
And they're also very much concerned with scholarship and the next generation. And then there's Garden Club of America, which has two affiliates in Memphis, and they too have programming that concerns gardening, flower arranging, conservation, scholarship. They're having a flower show next month. The National Garden Clubs is having a Deep South meeting here next Monday, and they're having a flower show too. So most people think about them as flower show groups, but they actually have a broad interest in gardening.
Okay. And many of them, I'm sure, have speakers as well.
They do. And a lot of people think you have to, it's hard to get in. It's not. You just have to find the right fit.
Right.
You have to, I'm in a club that meets at night, and I've been in it since 1980.
Wow.
It's a small
How about that?
group. It's 12 women, because that's about how many you can fit in your living room
Right.
or cook for.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we don't have outside speakers. We just take a topic and study it for the whole year. Last year we did trees, and we learned 4 new trees every month. So each club has a different bend according to what they're interested in. And a lot of them are looking for members and need new members to resupply, because we're an aging group.
Right.
We also have garden clubs that have men in them, which is a population we should now consider. And and explore the garden club world. And it's a nice, simple, easy study, but it's also a friendship you develop, just like in Master Gardeners. You learn the basics, and you also make good friends. And that's sort of what all of us are in gardening about.
That's right. That's right. Now tell me this, how do you go about choosing, though, one of these societies or garden clubs to actually be in?
Well, I suggest with the Memphis Horticultural Society, you attend a few meetings. On that first Tuesday of the month, the topic changes. You're there for 1 hour, from 7 to 8 is the lecture, and you listen to nationally known speakers from all over the country that we bring in on various subjects. We just had Bree Arthur, who is a young horticulturalist, who taught us things that I didn't know were possible in gardening. She gardens in her landscape, in her foundation planting. She plants tomatoes in her hydrangeas to grow up them, and so she had a wonderful presentation about gardening and foodscaping.
Okay. Now, how do we go about, you think, to attract, some of the younger generation into these plant societies and garden clubs?
Well, they need to feel a part of it, and then we need to have topics that they're interested in. In January, we had 10 young horticulturalists, gardeners that were on a panel discussion, and their interests are really aligned with ours in a lot of ways. They like to know more about native plants, and they're interested in foodscaping. And those are 2 topics we are too. Their time is very valuable, and they want to come out for a quality program.
Sure.
And so we've got to make sure what we're offering them is worth the time they take off to attend.
Okay.
And we also need to listen to them about what they're interested in and get them involved with the programming itself. We need them as officers, we need them on committees. Their involvement is vital for us to keep going.
Wow. Important stuff. So if you're in the Hosta Society, Hydrangea Society, or what
I'm in
have you,
both those too.
And you're in both of those, I know, as well. Do you actually become experts, though?
I don't think so. I think you garner a little bit every time you attend. You get a different take on it. I would never be able to learn all the botanical names.
Oh,
and
I'm
the
with you there.
hostas are just,
I'm with you.
they're just coming on so fast I can't keep up with them. But what you learn to do is, like, I specialize now in miniature hostas.
Okay.
I only grow the little ones, and I grow them in containers, and that's manageable, because I'm thinking in my next stage of life, I may be in an apartment and I can take them with me. I can grow them on a patio if I have them in a container.
Okay.
So with hydrangeas, I just think they're beautiful, and they're a
Yes, so do
great
I.
design plant, but I'm interested in those and how you make space with them and how you use them to the best of their attributes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned briefly the Master Gardeners. Walter knows a little bit about that. Of course, I do. So what about being a Master Gardener? How do you feel about that?
I think it's really important for the people that are interested in learning to get a basic course in everything. And Master Gardeners gives you the base and lets you, after you've finished the course, you then realize, well, my interest is in this or that, and you can follow that interest. But it's a great introduction to the world of gardening, and if you've been gardening as long as I have and were to take the course, then you find out all the things you've forgotten or didn't know to begin with. So it's a great place to start or to go back and refresh.
Great endorsement for the Master Gardener program. Thank you, Ms. Susie. We appreciate that good information. And we do hope that the younger generation comes in and be a part of a lot of these plant societies as well, and garden clubs too.
Thank you.
So thank you.
When you're gardening, a lot of times you use granular fertilizer, but sometimes you want it in liquid form. Well, most granular fertilizers can be dissolved in water. So here I have my small onion patch that I need to fertilize, and I don't really want to use granular fertilizer because I don't know when it's going to rain and I want the fertilizer to get to the onion quickly. So I have my watering can that I've half filled with water, and I have my 1 ounce of fertilizer. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the can, and then I'm just going to kind of mix it up. So after about a minute of shaking this gently, the fertilizer is dissolved. So I'm going to go ahead and fill my watering can up the rest of the way, just so I have a little bit more water here. And now I'm just going to water my onions. Now I want to make sure that I do not get it on the leaves, because just like fertilizer, granular fertilizer on the leaves will burn, well, this will burn as well. So there. Now my onions have the fertilizer immediately that they need. Now you can use most granular fertilizers and dissolve them in water just like that. Just make sure that you figure out how much you need and weigh it out and put it in the water.
All right, this is our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Yes.
These are great questions. Here's our first via email. Should I top my red maple tree to promote horizontal branch growth? Most of its growth has been vertical ever since some branches snapped off a few years ago. And this is Sean from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So what do you think about that one, Joelle?
Well, you know, you're really never supposed to top trees because it takes away the apical dominance. And what you really want for a nice trunk structure, you want a central leader that goes up straight.
Okay.
Now, looking at the picture, I can see what he's saying. You know, the branches fell off, and I know it's going tall, but there's a lot of shade around there. And when it's a shady condition, and you've have a young tree, it is looking for light. So it's growing as tall as it can to be able to get to light.
It's stretching to that light.
It's stretching to that
light.
light.
And he did mention, it's about 15 to 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's normal if for something. Think about it in a forest. The smaller trees, you know how tall and thin they are. So that's what this tree is trying to do, is just get to some light.
I would agree with that, because again, if you look at the picture, you can actually see the shadows around the snow on the ground. So it lets you know that there's some shade there, so it's looking for the light. Walter, anything you want to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, I was always told you never top a tree. That's what they teach us,
Right.
you know.
Right. All right. So I hope that helps you out, Sean. Thank you for the question and the picture. All right, here's our next via email. What is this? We found it last fall in the garden. And this is Sarah. So, Walter, what is that?
Well, I know I've seen it in my own yard, and I was told that it's a bird nest.
Yeah, bird nest fungus.
Yeah, fungus, yes.
Yeah, and you can see why they call it that. You know,
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
Yeah, a little bird's nest with some eggs in it. That's what it almost looks like.
Yeah.
Oh,
To me.
yes.
And the thing about it, it's not a bad thing. It's actually decomposing organic matter.
Right.
So you usually see it in mulch that's excessively moist
Yes.
or wet. But here's what you can do. Just rake it up.
Yeah.
No need for chemicals or
No.
anything like that. You can just rake it up and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Here's our next viewer email. Is it safe to build a raised bed garden out of 40-year-old treated lumber from an old fence? And this is Paya from Century, Alabama. So what you think about that one?
Well, what concerns me here is the 40-year-old.
40-year-old.
You know, because I don't know what it's treated with.
That's right.
Me personally.
Right.
And typically, though, let me bring this up to modern times.
Okay.
If you want to use a raised bed, I do advise people to get the treated landscape timbers at your local lumber yard or whatever, because they will hold up better. But getting back to that 40-year-old, I just don't know what it was treated with, and I would be scared to, advise you to do so.
I would definitely agree with that. And if you use the new treated wood, for the most part, if you look on the label, and I actually saw this recently, it will say treated for ground contact.
Okay.
Right? And
okay.
it contains, of course, copper. Copper asol is one, or alkaline copper is another one, which is safe.
Yes.
Which is safe. So Joellen, you and I talked about this.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between, if we want to do that in a, plant our vegetables in that raised bed as opposed to flower beds?
Right, now if you want to use the 40-year-old wood to make a raised bed for flowers,
Right.
that would be fine. But if you're going to be putting it for vegetables where you're going to be eating it, no.
Yeah.
Don't do that, because we don't know what it was treated with, and
That's
we
right.
want you to be safe. So, and that's why a lot of these pre-made raised gardens are made of cedar
Yes.
and cypress and
slow to
things
rot.
that rot slowly in the ground, and that's why they're made of that. And of course, you can buy alternatives. We did blocks out here at the family plot, and there's metal containers. There's all sorts of things besides wood that you can use for raised beds. But if he's got it and he wants to use it, as long as it's not for vegetables that he's going to eat, can't be for that.
Right, yeah, because again, going back to Walter's point, a lot of that treated wood from years ago was treated with, that copper, chromium,
And-
copper,
yeah.
arsenate.
Yeah,
Yes.
arsenic.
So-
Say that you have
No.
some arsenic stuff.
Yeah.
and that it doesn't go away.
Yeah, doesn't go away. Right, but yeah, the new treated wood be just fine. Be fine. Or you have alternatives, like
Yes.
you mentioned before. So yeah, look into those. So we appreciate that question, Paya. Thank you
Good
much.
one.
All right, so Joellen and Walter, we're out of time. That was good.
That's
It's
right.
good. Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about the plants Joellen planted or get information on plant societies, visit familyplotgarden.com. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.